Here I am. Okay, so recording started. This is Debbie Weissmann, and that was such a nice introduction. I'm here to present children playing on an information playground. Let me begin. Going to my slides. So hello everyone, and thank you to ASIS&T for providing me with this opportunity to talk to you about my work. I'm really excited to share my study with you. If I talk too fast, which I do try and control, please let me know and I will slow down. And if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat box, raise your hand, however you want to get my attention. And we have Amelia. Thank you so much, Amelia, for inviting me here. We have Amelia who's going to help field questions or my attention so that I can address what you want to know specifically. I don't mind being interrupted for questions, interrupted away, especially if you want more details. I'd love to work together. Collaboration is always my goal. So I just want to start with Elena, Jennifer, and Jessica. Are you three students, faculty? Where do we sit? Ooh, okay, students. So that's good because I've geared this talk really towards students, and I welcome any faculty that are perhaps watching this remotely. But I'm going to talk a lot about process, my thoughts on the process, the structure of my process. I'm hoping you'll be inspired by my work, inspired by seeing my process if you decide to go out and conduct similar research about working with kids or in any way to research. So I'm really trying to lay out my process for you. How does that sound? Great. I'd love to see you chatting with me, so thank you. I really want to see your responses during my pauses. Okay, so I also really like feedback. At the end of the slides are going to be my direct email address, or there's a D2L address to reach me, or Amelia can reach me. I presented this talk before, and you get the benefit of their feedback, and I'll be presenting it again. And I'd love them to have the benefit of learning from what works or doesn't work from you. This is my first time presenting it online, so you can tell me if some things I do don't translate as well in an online environment, and I really welcome feedback. So I look to you guys. As a side note, if you are in one of the two sections of Children in Information Technology, which I don't see anyone here, you can expect to see some of the data that I'm introducing in class. But as you engage with me here, you'll find that I'm going to provide greater context and hopefully a much richer discussion, so stay with me. Okay, so I'm going to begin. Let me go to my slide sorter. Already I'm behind. That was my hello. Hello, everybody. So let's begin in 2006. Actually, let's go back further than 2006. Let's begin in the late 1990s. A huge push by the U.S. government attributed to Al Gore, who was vice president, to Clinton, to connect every school and library to the internet, the information superhighway. Anybody heard of that? Terrific. Perhaps you've heard of it because in 2001 there was a big brouhaha with SIPA. Anybody heard of SIPA? Children's Internet Protection Act goes into effect 2001, and it ties libraries to what? Anybody know? Okay, it ties the funding of libraries by the federal government to the mandate of installing filters and computer content. It was a big ALA case. ALA went all the way to the Supreme Court. That is really lofty, really lofty to get a case to go to the Supreme Court. Amelia's supporting in that one, huge, all the way to the Supreme Court. Unfortunately, they lost, but still a very lofty goal. SEPA went all the way. ALA took it there. Okay, so I just wanted to orient you. The information superhighway were 2001, 2002, 2003. Everybody's getting connected. Every school is connected. Get the internet out there and do not lag behind. And once we're all connected in the college age era, we're finding this. And I was told to block out the faces. I wasn't going to do it, but in the end I did. Because why should I go after these people and then protect their privacy when they don't? But in the end I did. Okay, so at the time of this image, this was actually called the Facebook. It wasn't Facebook yet. I was on the Facebook probably within a couple months after it was posted as a looky-loo, not actually as a participant. So whether you think that's a little creepy, I hope not. But I'm a researcher. This is my field. I'm particularly interested in speech at the time of this. So this was just free, capture it all. I just started downloading as much as I could from it. And this is just one screen I brought you. So they are two gals in that picture, and they are very close in that picture. It's from what I gather, not a statement of sexuality at all, but a statement of look what I can do and show everybody on Facebook. The reason I said that is because lots of posts about the picture of what looks like men they could be dating. So it wasn't, I don't think, a statement of a personal statement in that way, but more of like, look what we can do on Facebook. So as I say, you can see from this picture, or you could if I removed my gray circle, good, clean, fun, perhaps highly offensive fun, or just downright risky college fun that college students are having with Facebook given the mandate of everybody being connected. And with this mandate you have everybody becoming broadcast producers. Here's my add-in of the slide. So crazy broadcast producers. You say, information producers, what do I mean by that? Well, let me show you. Okay, so I had to go to the trouble of blocking this out. You can see how annoyed I am that I had to go to that trouble. But I had a full birthday. I had a full name. I had a hometown. I had a full email address of where to reach this person and where they were living. I left it because they have since moved out of Hendrick Hall. I had the last name. I've got personal interests. I've got favorite music. I've got a lot of information. So you might say to me, yeah, but it's not just Facebook. People were blogging and they had personal web pages. Should I slow down? Am I going too fast? I'm looking for people to type in. How are we doing? Okay, good. Great. Okay, so you say to me, no, Deb, stop. That's not what's happening because we have blogging going on and we have personal web pages. And it's true, but if you look at the research for blogs, that a lot of people are putting them out and very few people are reading them. I wonder whether that's changed because I think people have gotten more sophisticated about their blogs, and the blogs have become special blogging communities. If you're going to do any research here, we can call them social worlds. That puts you in a very academic frame of mind. And the whole dynamic of blogging, I think, has changed, and they started connecting to each other. But at the time, especially 2005, blogs were like somebody would write it, and you were lucky if your mother read it. Personal web pages, similar. You know, you'd make these personal web pages, and you're lucky if 3 friends went on to see them. You know, some people might have gone bigger, but it's nothing like we see now, and they've changed into like what the social networking has done. So anyway, 2005, what I'm doing is focusing on speech rights of college students, looking at the risks of the Facebook, as that was a problem for the institution. So I wasn't really concerned yet on the problem with the kids. I was looking on the behalf of the institution. I didn't give a full bio. You can go look me up. I actually am an attorney as well. And I do a lot of presentations for attorneys. And so I was looking at speech rights in terms of what the school, what the college might be able to do to close down some of this information coming out. And basically you're dealing with adults and the schools can do very little. If anybody's interested in that, in 1 or 2 more minutes about the speech rights in college, let me know now before I move on. Nobody's typing. Okay, so I'll move on. But if you get interested in that, you can come back to it, you know, to speech rights in college, but it's going to come up again. So with all the crazy stuff that was happening on the Facebook, which has become Facebook, including looky-loo me seeing what's going on, all of a sudden I started thinking, what's going to happen for this little one? And how could I use what I have, my research, my law, my mind, my passion, to see what I can do about the transition between this little one and what's going on over here. Like what's here that's gonna perhaps help protect the little pumpkin over here from what I've identified here as, oh, is everything open? No. When I had the birthday open, I blew that one. So what's going to protect the pumpkin here from what's going on over here? And with it, I began reading. I started with what I already knew. I started with a lot of the work I had already done with the speechwrites with the college students. And a research project was born. So if I'm going to go look at the kids, and I'm not going to be looking at their brethren older, the first thing I began with was a model. I love theoretical models. It's my first step into research before you can do anything else. I kind of figure out where am I, what do I know, where am I going before I move into it. So my model is the goals and concerns of what would I want to do to get right in between there. And I'm going to start here with looking at the goals. So I have the children, what their goals might be. I have the culture at large, what the goals might be for the culture, and I have the parents. And here's something that's really interesting. It's changed since 2005. This no longer would be down here. It's really changed. It's so interesting how much it's changed. After the goals, oh, and let's just go through a few of them. Predator awareness, like what are the parents concerned about? You know, supervising their kids, controlling things, time management, cost. At this time it was a text message of cost because every text costs. That's changed too. What's the culture going to be interested in? The broadcast, the permanency, law. You know, what are the kids themselves going to be interested in their friendships and their privacy and all of that. And then I looked at what would the concerns be. What are the concerns, like the children and the parents? What would those concerns be that they might share? What about the children in the information culture? What are the concerns there they might share? And then what are the concerns of the parents and the information culture? What are those concerns they might share? Are y'all with me? I'm looking for text. Yeah. Okay. And from there, I came up with this overarching goal right in the middle of, if I'm going to be here, what I want to impart is judgment skills, ethics, morality, community, and connections. So where does this come in? Because I'm getting, at this point, a PhD in information studies with a real heavy lean with library science to it. And so what is a librarian? What could the library do? What could an information science curriculum do? What could an information literacy curriculum do? An information literacy curriculum could address these things right here. Are you all with me on that? Do you agree? Great. Okay, so the next thing I do is I think, what's my approach going to be to this? So here's the same thing in the middle. We just saw this a minute ago. So one of them, you see, if you're involved in this at all, you've seen this. Perhaps if you're a parent and you've got kids, you've seen this. Perhaps if you're an aunt, you've got young nieces and nephews, you've seen it. But you can come in with like, what's going to change with age and maturity? What's going to change with, do they have a laptop or a tablet? What's going to come in with, you know, the real issues versus the fear and hype. You see a lot of hype and fear around this. Or what's going to come in with the idea of like, let's just be moral here. What are the morality here? And the morality coat we wear, if you're interested, comes right out of Goffman, Irving Goffman. If anybody hasn't read him, enjoy, you'll love it. And he talks a lot about presences in public and being on stage and off stage. So your morality code is kind of like, you know, on stage, off stage behavior. Really, really, really interesting. And I decided I was going to look at this from a point of view, oh, you believe which two? The Goffman? Jennifer, what was the I believe it too comment for? Well, I'm going to keep going, but Jennifer, if you get back to your, I'm curious what the comment was in reference to. We're waiting 1 minute. She's typing. Ah, fabulous, 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 fabulous. Okay, so I decided I'm not going to take the Goffman approach, even though I think it's a great approach if you're interested. I definitely don't like hype and fear. Hype and fear really bothers me. I know it sells, but it's not. I've never wanted to sell. I wanted to do something different. So I looked at access availability, which is the devices pretty much, and if anybody knows about a theory of affordances, says basically if you run upon a rock, that rock is whatever you say that rock is. That rock is a weapon, it is a seat to sit on, it is something to sharpen a tool with, it is something to throw, it is something to, a rock is what it is. So a computer or a tablet or an iPhone, and we see this all the time, is what this instrument is because we say it is. So I'm looking at that kind of access, availability, affordances, age and maturity, what's happening over time. Okay, so let's get right to the study. I hope I haven't completely
Debbie, what theory was that? Alina had a question. Theory of, do you see that in the chat box?
Oh, affordances. Okay, so I don't have it right on here of where I'm going to go, but if you look at Donald Norman wrote The Design of Ordinary Things, which since then he's changed the name because it didn't sell well enough in the bookstores and he had to go literally find a different shelf to put his book on to sell it, so he changed the name. And you'll have to look at him. And he uses the theory of affordances in his Design of Ordinary Things in terms of when you walk up to a door, do you push or pull? And that depends on what does the handle look like. If you've got a teapot, you pour it. But he's coming off of somebody else. I wish I had it right ahead of me, and I don't, and I'm not going to go fish for it, of who really came up with it. But that's my in if you want to go find Donald Norman. Really, really interesting theory of affordances. Read his book. And if you're interested, by the way, all my sites for this, it got down to the wire, so I didn't pull them all together and pop them on the end of my screens, but email me and I'll give you where all of this comes from and all of these people. So far I've really said I believe in the work of Erving Goffman and I've really believed in the work of Donald Norman, and I stand behind those two, they're great. So let me start off with what you always have to do when you have a study is, let me set up my study. So I was very lucky. A school allowed me in. If you're planning to do any work with schools, notice that turn of phrase, a school allowed me in. To work with a school, you've got to go through an IRB. IRB has special conditions for working with anybody under the age of 18. I'm working with kids, really important. I've got an added duty to take care of that population. Other populations you'd have an added duty are prisoners, medical, pregnant women. I can't remember if it's any more off the top of my head. I'm only working with kids, none of the other populations. Added duty. I even tell my students, please do not go talk to kids in anything we're doing for class. You need actually special training for it, and it's a very big deal. We protect our children, and I'm one of the people standing tall protecting them. So the site, private elementary school. Pilot study 2007. My population is 2nd to 6th grades. At the time, they said, I don't need to go into kindergarten and 1st grade because this has nothing to do with them. So much has changed since 2007. At this point, no one would say, don't go talk to my kindergartners. They'd say, have you considered talking to my pre-K class, or did you go to the nursery school down the hall? Because it's completely aged down in terms of the longevity of it. The full study I did in 2009, 10, 11, 12, and 13. I know my 2013 data because I just did my data collection, but I didn't bring it to you because I didn't have time to really do the full, put it on the Excel spreadsheet and the analysis. So I'll bring it in when I remember something from 2013 that's particularly interesting. Other than that, I'm going to show you the difference of 2009 and 2012. Are you going to ask me why only 2009, 2012? Anybody want to ask that? Yay. Okay, because people are messy. My doctoral committee said this to me, I will never forget it. People are really, really messy. When you study, people are messy. The data had a lot of noise in it between 2010, 2011. I'm happy to show it to you. But when you see the study between 2009, 2012, you will see it really crystal clear. I think when you study people, Rather than see what you see in the stock market, which is that up tick, 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 tick. When you study people, it's actually a lot more like the tides of the ocean. You've got a high tide and a low tide, and things go in and things go out. But you do see that tick when you are pulling out the noise in the middle. Why do I say that? Because we go back to, I want to inspire you to do your own study. And when you're doing and you're getting your data and you're thinking, this is so messy, I want to say to you, yes, data is really, really messy. Do it anyway. It's really interesting. How's that sound? Yes. If you go to a public school in California, actually, I can only tell you about LAUSD because that's where I am. I'm not in LAUSD for this. It's a private school. But if you go to LAUSD, you can't talk to the kids except for after school because of this mandate of how many hours they actually have to be in class. You're not allowed to pull them out of class to do your studies. I am doing a study at another school that I'm talking to kids. Again, through an IRB in the school. I went through IRBs in the school as well as through UCLA's IRB for both of these, for this study and the other. And I am talking to kids that go to a public school, and I was able to get into that public school, but again, it's another sort of gift for them inviting you into the public school. I can bring a little bit of that data too. It's a little bit of a different group, but the data gets even messier and messier. So I tried to keep this something that you'd understand. Again, I want to inspire you to do your own work in addition to learn from mine. So I'm trying to show you crystal clear, which is not so easy to do when you're talking about people. How does that sound? Good? I'm assuming it's okay. We're going to go on. So diversity. Yeah, everybody wants to know about diversity. You've got approximately 50-50. It's not actually 50-50. Again, people are messy. It's not ever going to be that clean. It's something around a 44-66. Every year it changes a little bit. But the school polls for 50-50. I also don't get everybody in the school signing on to my research. It has to be a consent volunteer basis. So some parents say no, some kids say no. But they poll for 50-50, so I put it there. Diversity, I've got a low, middle, and high. Social economic status. They're representing people who are across the economic spectrum, low, middle, and high. They pull it that purposely. They can do it because they're a private elementary school. I've got multiple cultures represented. I'm looking, yeah, really? What does that mean? Jennifer, what are you looking at? What are you talking about? As she types, actually, I'm just going to finish my thought on multiple cultures. I know it's multiple cultures because how do they make sure? So I'm going to address that for a minute. How does the school do it? So I don't work for the school. I can't represent the school, but I'll tell you what, a little bit I do know about the school because I have to do this in terms of justifying my study on why it makes sense. They give scholarships. They go into lots of different neighborhoods and they give scholarships so that they can pull from different places to have a diverse student body, since that's one of the goals of the school in general, the entire school's goal. So multiple cultures are represented. How do they get that? I don't know, but believe me, when I'm walking down the halls and I see the pictures of I'm seeing kids from all over. I mean, all the continents, all the countries, multiple cultures. So it's a lot of diversity, intentional diversity for the school. Again, 2013 is not represented, and I'm going to go further into the study. So I do qualitative work. If anybody's going to do qualitative work, they're going to have to justify their qualitative versus quantitative. I don't know how well you all know ASIS&T. Amelia, do you know that ASIS&T is quantitative leaning? Yes. So ASIS really looks for the quantitative, these huge data sets that are going to be predictive. Quantitative work tends to be predictive. We see 1,000 of these things. We expect to see 1,000 more. I do qualitative work. Qualitative work tends to be descriptive. Some heavy quant people think qualitative work, well, it's not quite as scientific. I disagree wholeheartedly. If anybody runs into this argument, come to me. I will stand next to you shoulder to shoulder, and I will explain to you why qualitative work is so darn important. So I'm limited by class size. It's a small private school. The most I can get is about 40 in any class, maybe 45, and not everybody takes the study. I'm looking for qualities of behavior. I'm looking for descriptions of behavior, and I'm not creating a study designed to carry statistical power of prediction. I'm not looking to predict. I'm looking to describe and reflect. Because again, if you remember my goals, they were to figure out a way for the curriculum to become in here. For the curriculum, I'm not trying to predict what's happening in the future. I'm trying to look a little bit different. I'm trying to look at that curriculum piece of it. Let me move on. So my methodology, and this is my last process screen. I hope I didn't just completely bore you all at this point. We're almost done with the process of this whole thing. Paper and pencil survey, 23 questions open-ended, 18 follow-up prompts. The last couple of years I added group interviews. Why the last couple of years? Because I have to ask permission for everything I do, and I only got the nerve up to ask in the last couple of years. That's true. 7 questions in the group interviews with the prompts. Why would I want that? That's for validity purposes. When I started the paper and pencil survey and I got in, I think it was 2 years in, I decided, how do I know even what they're doing? How do I know they're telling me what I think they're telling me? How do I even know if they understand the questions? These are all validity and reliability questions. So giving them the group interview, I can follow the prompts. I can make sure they understand the question. I can make sure they're actually asking the question I am answering. When these things line up with each other, I've got a lot more reliability in the answers. Validity was harder to get with such a small group. I went to a big conference, and the funny thing is I took my slides and I put them right next to somebody who did a big quantitative analysis across the country of thousands of kids, and my slides just lined up. They could have layered on top. So my validity didn't come internally, it came externally, but my findings are replicated in many other studies. Participant self-reporting, that's really interesting. If you're going to do your methodology, you've got to think about who you're going to believe. You're going to talk to their parents, you're going to talk to the librarian, you're going to talk to the kids themselves. I always believe in talking to the kids. I trust the kids. I think they know what they're doing. We talked about the reliability and the validity. My analysis, if anybody knows anything about grounded theory, I call it modified grounded theory. True grounded theory, you go in without anything and you see what blooms. I already know I'm looking for something that's going to look something like the measles, but it could look like the chicken pox, and it could look like the mumps, and it might be rubella. I've already got a little bit of an idea, so it's a modified grounded theory approach. At the same time, I'm very keen on the idea of knowing the power and the focus of your lens. It's as if you are picking up a rock and putting down the microscope and saying, what is under there? I bring to it that sense of wonder. I do not bring to it a sense of judgment. I look under it and I say, what is under there? How are they doing it? How are these colonies forming? How do they do it? And then, after it's all done, I can say, oh, now that I know how the colonies are forming and what they're interested in, what they're doing, here's ways that librarians or teachers or parents can go back and help them address goals and concerns they share. How does that sound so far? Does it sound like I'm imposing myself as an activist, or I'm really just observing? Great. That's what I'm looking for. I'm glad that's coming across, because that's truly where I'm coming from. Great. Okay, so I'm going into findings, which is kind of the meat of the study. Here's a question I asked. Do you have a computer to use at home? Why? So every slide is going to be, why do I ask it, and why is it important? What does it tell us? Why? Because if they don't, I'm actually looking at self-generated queries. If you read anything by Melissa Gross, she talks about the imposed query. An imposed query or an imposed directive is when somebody says, can you please go and find for me? A self-generated query is, wow, I'm going to go on YouTube and find something really, really interesting, which, by the way, the kids do all the time. Now, 2013. So I'm looking at that self-generated query, and you can't have those self-generated queries if they can't get it lined. Yes, some do go to libraries, and they do self-generated queries at libraries, but they're taken there by an adult, and they've got librarians there and other people sitting around them. And so I'm looking to see, do we have computers at home? And if they don't, then already we're looking at validity issues and reliability issues. So interestingly, in 2007, the pilot study, and 2012, and I can only tell you 2009 is the same, I've got 100%. Remember, they pull from all these different SES, social economic statuses. It is possible the school gives them computers. I don't know that to be true. I have to think maybe it's true. So do these findings, are they going to be predictive? Are they going to go outside this community? I don't know if they are or not. As I said, I do have another school I'm working with. That school is not diverse in the same way. In fact, it's not very diverse at all. It is a school that is a Title School 1, which means the parents' economics scale down to Title 1. And they too have computers at home. I don't know that I'd get 100%. I haven't put that data 100% in front of my eyes to even look. But a lot of them do have the computers at home. So there is going to be some replication outside this population, but it's not going to be identical. Okay, so remember, I'm doing this in 2007. The big question is, what room in your home do you use your computer? Does anybody remember that big question? Anybody online with me remembering? Put the computer in the family room. Put the computer in the kitchen. Make sure the parent can see it when their kids are on the computer. Anybody remember this? Right. And I see that Elena is going, ha ha, yes, which I love, because the truth is they're on tablets, they're on Xboxes, they're on PlayStations, they're on iPods and iPads, and they're on telephones. And how would you even know, even if your kid was in the middle of the kitchen and you were cooking spaghetti, what they're doing on the internet? So the dialogue had to change. And what's really interesting is I'm going to keep pointing out ways it did change. So if you even look here, what does this slide say? This is really, really weird. I don't understand it. It says that 33% of the students surveyed in 2009 said it was in my room when I'm on the computer. And I asked about the computers, and now they say, do you mean computer only, or do you mean computer and or cell phone and or tablet? So it gets really, really messy with the data there. It's now 50% that are reporting. Now remember, this is self-reporting, so some think I'm looking for something else. You've got bias, you've got all the things that come into any kind of study when you're looking at numbers. And again, I'm showing process. Whenever you read a study, even in the newspaper, you can think to yourself, huh, I wonder how they got those statistics. Anyway, so I'm being really, really upfront with you on all the places that you could even say to this study, could you do this differently? Could you do this differently? Everything could be done differently. I'm still showing you my data because I believe in my data. So yeah, impossible to monitor. I like that, Amelia. So now we're at 50% say reporting that they're doing this all in their own bedrooms. Could their parents stop it if they want to? I'm still getting a little bit of filter stuff coming through when I'm asking them about, are there any rules at home? Well, I know there's this thing called my filter on the computer. So the answer is the parents do still monitor them some way. On the other hand, they can do a heck of a lot, even with the filters, as we know in the libraries, even with CBUT. Okay, so I love this question. This is one of my favorite questions I ask the students. Do you know what the internet is? Now, this is 100%. See, this is 105%. I don't have 105%. It's just showing you because Excel did this, and Excel's my go-to for my quantitative data. And it's not meant to predict anything. It's meant to just give you a description. We're using numbers to describe. I'm still qualitative. I'm not predicting anything. I want to be really clear on that because one of you is going to write me an email. Yeah, I'm reading Jennifer. That's exactly right. Then one of you is going to say, wait, how come you have all these slides of numbers in your qualitative, and how do I defend qualitative? And yes, you do have to defend qualitative because these numbers are only describing. I'm not predicting anything with these numbers. So do you know what the internet is? 97% said yes in 2009, and 100% said yes in 2012. And here's the value of the follow-up prompt. Here's the value of the interview. Because yes, they know what the internet is, but are you ready for this? In 2009, they said the internet is, you know, what is it? Please describe it. If you know what it is, describe it. A big website. Does that sound like 2009 to you? It sounds exactly like 2009 to me. The internet is SVC Global. The internet is a search engine. The internet is a place. Remember we talked about places? We used to talk about places. The internet is a place where you can find anything you need. 2009, it's a web of, and he wrote, and this, I think it was a he actually, I don't really remember, it so long ago. He did those little quotation marks. A web of computers that are connected with servers, etc. Oh, I have a 2010 there. I didn't mean to. I think this is a 2012 because I color-coded my data, and I trust my color codes over my numbers. I tend to, one of the reasons we've got Excel is because I want my numbers to stick. So I think this is 2012, even though it says 2010. So watch what happens in 2012. Do you know what internet is? I'm going back. Remember, it's 3%. This is like one person, maybe two people at most difference. This is no difference. Look at this difference, 2012. The internet is an online place where people across the world can see you. Intellectually, do you see the intellectual map I'm building? This is like, how do they intellectually compose in their mind what the internet is? A way to reach people, a way people can research, play games, look up random stuff, a big chat room. How different is that than SBC Global, right? The internet is an interconnected pool of knowledge and images. Whoa, that's so different than a web of computers connected. A tool, and I didn't mean to, by the way, make these line up. I'm telling you what they gave me. I just threw them on there. I'm finding patterns here. I didn't even know these patterns existed up until the moment I gave you this talk. And I've even given this talk before. 2012, a tool for learning, for messaging, and has been abused over time negatively. Look at the development cognitively. These are sixth graders. They're both sixth graders in the same school, in the same place, in the same city, at the same desk with actually the same teacher. And he's so great because now he says, Dr. Weissmann, come on in. You can talk to my students as long as you want because we've been doing this for so long together. Does anybody else see this incredible intellectual leap of my data? You can all raise your hands or type in or something, but I mean, to me, this is stunning. I'm wondering if it hits you the same way, and if it doesn't, I'd like to know, what you think if you really don't think this data is stunning. I love the approving line. Yeah, you guys can approve, you can do hand raising, you can do any of the signs, but I just want to know what you think. So Jennifer's saying, yes, but it is the school or our culture as a whole. Great question, Jennifer. I can't answer that question. Okay, actually, I can answer that question, but I'm going to answer it two ways. One is it is just this school, and these students do get internet training. And not only that, these students have run into lots of challenges over all the things you read about bullying and theft identity and all of that because they talk to me all about it. On the other hand, it's not just this school. It's pervasive in our culture. The idea of this intellectual jump. And not only that, you're seeing this intellectual jump of where these kids are in 2009. You're seeing this type of conversation perhaps, and I'm just guessing, but from talking to so many kids in so many different places, perhaps this is what you're seeing in about third grade now. So yeah, I think that's my way of answering it. My data cannot predict and does not describe outside this culture. I can tell you from my own work beyond this one study that, yeah, it's pervasive, and you'd see this as a much younger group. Yes. Okay, so Amelia made a great point about smartphones, and I was going to say the same thing, that when I went into the other school, even if they didn't have a computer, every single student I talked to had a phone. That's bar none, and that's down to kindergarten too. Everybody had a phone. All right, so I'm going to jump a little bit to Operationalizing Concepts. If I was really going to lay this out as a paper, this is going to go up front. I put it here because it would be so boring if I gave you one more slide of methodology when you really didn't need it yet. And I'll give it to you here. So I asked about their favorite games, which we'll get to. Here's how I define chat. Chat is what you do is you chat. So it could be Skype, it could be chat, it could be IM, it could be texting. It's usually a one-to-one where you click on somebody and then they know it's you and you know it's them. Yeah, I know there's group chats and all these other types of things. But it's still really what you do is chat. Social network sites, SNS, the point of it is to be socially connected and sharing. So this, if you look, and you even knew this, this is a 2000, probably 10, very different from what we saw with the Facebook in 2005 and even how it looks. And I just took it and took all these other pictures on it. You'll notice these are all pets. I took everybody's pictures and I just put pets on it because I was still covering up people's personal information. But the main point of it is you've got a social network and then, yeah, games come into it and chat comes into it. SGS, social gaming sites, the main point is the game. And then they also can be social with each other and chat. And then video is YouTube, but it's also Netflix or now Amazon does video, it's video wherever. And by the way, this video is that video that was really, really interesting where you've got Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and Mark Zuckerberg saying that everybody needs to learn to code. It's a language we all need at this point in our life, if you're interested where that came from. So now that we have our concepts operationalized, we know what our terms mean. 2007 to 2012, so don't get worried. I know I'm dropping back into the pilot study because I can. Some of the questions came in after the pilot study, so I can't, but this one I can. It's one of the original questions. Report your favorite activities. Remember chat, social games, social networking, and video. This, oops, sorry, I got two of them. This, well, I don't know too about that one. This is what we see. We see chat decreasing. Why? Because they're going on their social networks and chatting. We see games way decreasing. This has been replicated in many other studies. If you want to find it, I can give it to you. That's why I said that I'm not trying to predict. Other people do that, but I'm telling you my data lines up. It's not wrong. So we see it way down for gaming. That's been reported all over the place. Perhaps why? I don't have an answer for you. You're going to go on Facebook and you can play Angry Birds, or you can go on your phone and play games. You actually don't have to go online now to addictinggames.com and play games or go to all the different games. We see social network creeping up. So social networks are going to be MySpace or Facebook or whatever they do, where the main part of it is the social component of it. You do see a creep. There's sixth graders. They're not supposed to be on it yet. There's an age limit. If anybody's interested in that age limit and why, we can get to it if we even have a minute at the end. And then the video, we see it skyrocketing. And that's exactly what we see. I mean, they're on Netflix, they're on YouTube, they're making their own. And this is sixth graders. Yes, I'm seeing this in fifth graders and fourth graders. I'm seeing this with first graders that have got the parents' cell phones, that are on YouTube watching videos. And I've seen parents shrug and go, oh, wait, what if that's really inappropriate? Ah, well, he probably can't understand it anyway. True, true, true. And I'm talking everywhere. I'm talking to parents. I'm talking to kids. I'm doing it with permission, with an IRB. But this is exactly what you see. And if I were going to design the study now, I would design it around this. I wouldn't be designing it around this and this. You know what? I'm just going to keep going with my study. I'm not going to redesign it. But for anybody else who wants to take it up, I love collaboration. Join me in this. Join me in this. It's really exciting. Okay. So do you ask for help in finding sites? Why do I bring it to you? Because perhaps some of you are interested in the library side of this. Some of you are teachers, and some of you are the people who they're going to be asking for help. So what's really interesting? 2009 to 2012, less are asking. These are percentages in the sense that this is 10%, 20%, 30% of the students taking the survey that year. So you've got somewhere around 75% in 2009 and somewhere around 56 or 7% in 2012. It is decreasing. I'm not trying to predict how low it will go. I'm just showing you that these students in sixth grade are asking fewer times for help. Is that because they got better at it, more skilled at it younger? Maybe. Is that because they feel like their parents know less than they do? Maybe. Is that because they don't even know they're asking for help? I've got students reporting that they don't ask for help, but then also I talk to them like, yeah, we're sitting around the table and snack, and we're saying, oh, that's a great YouTube. How do you get to that site? And they don't even know they're asking for help. Finally, up front, I had one issue with my data, which was the reliability and the whether it can be verified, in that maybe this to them felt like I was asking about schoolwork because I am approaching them at school. So in this, again, I'm not trying to predict. I'm describing, maybe what they're doing is describing what's happening at school when they get an assignment and they don't know what's happening. And why do I say that? I'm going to go to the next slide. Because who do they ask more than anything is parents. So even though they're asking fewer people, their parents continue to be the most important person they ask. Teachers down here, siblings, interestingly here, friends, interestingly here. So they're asking fewer people, but they're more often asking their parents. Is it because I have to do an assignment on Paul Revere and I don't know where to get any information on Paul Revere and I'm not allowed to do Wikipedia? Maybe, maybe not. That's not the point of the study. This was kind of a question to frame the study, but I bring it to you specifically because maybe it has interest for you here. Does it? Anybody? Happy smiley faces? Okay, I'll go on. Okay, so here's the next one. Oh, you were just thinking, Jennifer? Thanks. So here's the next one. How do you find sites? This again shows that huge cognitive leap. And you can ask the same questions. Is it only this school or is it pervasive? I think it's pervasive. So in 2009, how do you find sites you're looking for? Google and look randomly. That's true. That's actually the title of the paper I wrote. Does this need the libraries need to reach out to parents more? I leave that to you all to discuss. I don't know. I don't know what this means. So Google and look randomly, open the internet, Google Wikipedia, www.org is how I find sites, which isn't true because I know a lot of these kids are gaming. Delicious or ask, I think that is true. Maybe they say I meant how do I find information, so this could be a misconnect. Regardless, when you ask it in 2012, you Google, 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 and Google. And those who aren't Googling have bookmarks. Huge intellectual leap between Google and look randomly and a bookmark, between open the internet and the bookmark, between Google, Yahoo, Bing, and all of these others. Does everybody see this? Elaine is typing. You can put little happy faces or anything else. Does everyone see the cognitive leap I'm describing? Yay. Okay, before I get to it's 6:51, I promised to be off by 7 before I get to my last slides. I want to first say, does this make sense? Is this interesting? Is this something that is resonating with you? Is there another direction I should be going with this lecture before I get to my very last slides? Because I really want to hear from you for just a second. I take criticism really well too. Don't worry. Okay, good. Good. So I'm going to get to my last slides, which to me is I'm going to show you this, and I'm going to say what I call this on steroids, like really, really crazy, interesting stuff. So every time I put out a study, I always say to the participants, do you have any questions for me? And didn't you notice I just did that for you too? I'm always interested in what the other person is thinking. So I'm going to give you, again, I'm going to divide it between the 2007, because I can. I asked in 2007 and the 2012. So in 2007, so I went back even further to make it more dramatic. Here's what I got. How do I make a website? How do I plug in the microphone? How do I type faster? What is HTML? How do I connect? Okay, so they even wrote connection. How do I connect the internet to my computer? How do I end? Does anybody see anything about these questions that stands out at them right away? I'll take the first person. Anybody? How to exactly? That's exactly right. Well, looking for independence, Jennifer, is interesting, but I didn't get that part of it, but now that you say it, like, yeah, that's exactly right. How to. Conceptually, we're looking into the kids in 2007 are looking at how to. Just for a minute, I want to do this just for fun, okay? Remember my goals, 2007, and my concerns, like, this is really where they are. They're just kind of like, how do I do all these things? How do I type faster? And how do I do all these things? I was kind of right on with it. How do I? Ready for 2012? Okay, I consider this mind-blowing. How was the internet invented? Which actually isn't quite as mind-blowing. What is the limit of what to do safely on the internet? Never mind the construction, they're kids. Of what to do safely on the internet. Okay, the limit? Really? If I'm having a chat on Skype, does it get up there on the internet? Are there super fun games on the internet that are also educational? Is there good music on YouTube that's good for us? Okay, this is mind-blowing. Like, parents talk, librarians talk this way, right? How do I find the educational stuff to show my kids? How do I find the music to show, right? Sophistication all over the place. Thank you, Beth, for bringing that in. That's exactly what one of my talks was called, I think, 2 years ago, is the increasing sophistication of our young internet users. That's exactly what it is. Do many people look at what I write when I'm chatting? Look what they're concerned about. We're going to go back to that. I just kind of buried the lead. How do you stop people from hacking your internet and computer? What about bullies? Do people who own the internet? Okay, now we're really moving into a construction because actually that's not so far away from things like SBC Global, right? Do people who own the internet check what is on it so people only use it appropriately? Kinda. I mean, if you go back and you really look at the utilities and what they're doing and the load and is it a free net or not a free net, these kids know nothing about that and they are right spot on. I mean, if you are an SBC Global and you start writing nasty things about them, do they close your connection down? They know about it. We know they know about it. Because now the kids' concerns have moved here. The kids' concerns, they've dropped. They've literally dropped to what were parents and information culture concerns, which is phenomenal. So as brought up before, yeah, it's true that this particular school has information literacy training. It's not by me. But they do. But it's not just this school. And even if it were just this school, okay, so this is what happens when you bring in information literacy training, so I'm not going to worry about that quite so much. But I want to get back to these questions for a minute. I just think these are absolutely mind-boggling in what they're really concerned about. They've got a lot of morality issues. Let's go back here. I'm going to pull up the slide. They've got a lot of morality issues. So I feel like, did I just pull exactly what I went after? Is this incredible? Am I looking at judgment? Am I looking at skills? Am I looking at ethics, morality? Am I looking at community connections? What's really, really phenomenal about going in with kind of grounded theory analysis, but knowing the lens, knowing what's already in the petri dish, is that I actually kind of hit that right on the nose. And here's the great thing, that Amelia, I didn't even know that until I put this together this time, not even the last time. Actually, the time before this time to here, that when Amelia got me thinking about this and I pulled this together, I didn't even know how close I came to that. And if you really look at these, you'll really see that. You'll really see that that's where the information literacy is going, and that's what the kids are talking about. And with that, it's about 7, but we have plenty of time for Q&A. I was told that I don't have to pop off at 7, so I won't. So I really want your feedback, what struck you, what didn't, what further questions. I'm happy to take the conversation in any direction, whether it was back to speech rights or whether it was back to some of the authors I noted, or whether it was the data itself, or whether you can challenge the data. Please challenge my data. The more times you challenge my data, the stronger my data stands. Okay, that's such a great question, Jessica. So I every year say to the students, say to the school, it's me again. Hello, may I come back? Oh, no problem, Jennifer. And so I say to them, and so far they said I come back. If every time I give them this presentation and I can show them how wow popping it is, they seem to let me back. I'm going to take it as far as I can go. I mean, it takes my stamina too. You're talking 2007 to now. That's a lot of years. Every summer I spend putting all this data on an Excel spreadsheet. It's a ton of data to keep track of. It's a ton of data to look through and to sift each time. So as long as I've got the stamina for it and the school lets me back, as I said, I've got 2 schools running now, not just one. The second set of data collections going in April. So I'll do it as long as I can. It's longevity. We'll see what I can do. Any more questions? I see Elena typing.
So I'm wondering, Debbie, do you ever propose solutions or ways to increase information literacy, or your role is more of an observer and a tracker of change?
Okay, so that's such a good question, because remember how I started out with this information literacy curriculum? So the answer is yes, and I actually can show you, I mean, somewhere in this buried in all these slides, I have an information literacy curriculum, and what I bring to the table is that we take our information literacy curriculum that we have standing right now, which either if you're going to use the Big Six when they're younger, or you can use one of those, or you're going to go to the Trails program, which is the high school program, I think, or the Sales program, which I think is the college students. I could have that backwards. I don't remember. Let's take what they have, which is, what's the authority on this? How do you know it's true? Where's the bias on this, and all of that, and I want to embed what I would call this personal information literacy curriculum, and I've been working really hard on that and putting that out there in terms of my own information literacy curriculum and what I think that would layer and fit so snugly into the curriculum we have now. So not starting with an entire new page, as so many people want to do, but we already have the foundation, and we know it. And if you even went to look at the ALRC, what they put out for their standards, so many of those standards can be you just translate that to the idea of look at the information you're putting out about yourself. Where does that show your bias? Where is your authority? What are you doing? And particularly because forget Facebook. I understand Facebook. What I'm finding with my 6th graders is not even Facebook, it's Instagram. So, and I'm finding Instagram pop up all over the place in 2013. Instagram's the new place, as well as Snapchat. That's 2013's data. So it's not like forget Facebook, but enough kids are they're done with Facebook in a way. And you look at all sorts of numbers and you'll find that true. Instagram's the new hot thing. But not only that, these kids, they're going on Wikipedia. They're changing Wikipedia sites. They're making YouTube videos. They're putting videos of themselves out there completely public. So I'm not just what are they doing back to those 2 gals that were on their Facebook in 2005. But children are information producers, and that cannot be ignored. And if they're going to be information producers, I say bring in the curriculum we already have to an information literacy or media literacy, and just overlay it or embed within it this idea of if you're going to be the producer, take a look at these things. Take a look already of the matrix we've already built and see where you fit in. That's my own activism showing. I usually don't like to bring that into my researchy picture because I like to keep them really separate, although some researchers are activists, so that's my response to you. What do people write? The question from Elena is the perception of the library as a resource versus their precious Google. I don't actually ask that question head on because I'm asking them, if you remember, about self-generated versus the imposed query. And so self-generated, I suppose they'll go to the library if they need it. I did a different study, so if you can all just completely change gears. This was the most amazing study. So I'm also a consultant when schools bring me in and they have me talk to their kids, and then I come and tell them the places in their literacy curriculum that they could support their students further with. And I'm being really diplomatic right there. And so what was so phenomenal is I gave the students 3 different websites to look at, and one was, and they're all mocked in one way or another, but one kind of looked like Wikipedia, and one actually looked like an encyclopedia, and it was branded most trusted source. And what was the third? I think the third was actually just a poem, and they all had to do with Paul Revere. And what was really, really phenomenal, getting to your question about the Google, is that I had in that study, I'm trying to think, I probably had 40 kids that I was doing the analysis with. And I probably got 40 different answers on why or why not they should use one or another of those websites that I mocked up for them that were closed. You couldn't even click through and get to anything else. They were just mocked like you see now on the slides, that they had to just take it for what they saw. 40 different answers. Yes, you should use it because it says it's trusted. No, you shouldn't use it because I don't see any sources. Yes, you should use it because it says 2013. No, you shouldn't use it because I see bias. Yes, you should use it because it looks like Wikipedia. No, you shouldn't use it because it looks like Wikipedia. Yes, you should use it because this poem's got a lot of information in it. No, you shouldn't use it because it's only a poem. Yes, you should use it if you're doing a study about poems. I mean, 40 different all over the map. So these kids in 6th grade, I didn't touch it. Those kids were in 8th grade, and that was done last year. And like I said, I was paid for it, so you won't see anything written up. Couldn't write a paper on it, can't even present it anywhere, but I give you just a teeny bit here of addressing where they see the library and all this. They're all over the place. They're kind of like they don't even know what to think yet, and those were middle schoolers. Does that help answer your question, Elena?
I have to say I work with a lot of academic librarians right now, and you know, as much as people like to claim to be purists, most people that I know really start with Google and they use Wikipedia because it's updated constantly. So even though we preach one thing, but where a lot of us are using those as, if not primary sources, at least starting points.
Okay, can I address that directly? I'm going to address that directly. Amelia, do you mind?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Okay, so, and actually if you look on the listserv, if anybody's following like the ILIIL, I can't remember how they frame it, listserv, that's exactly what they say. You've got librarians saying, I use Google, do I really have to teach it the other way? And which is one of the reasons that I do a completely different study. You're just so lucky that I do this study too and you get me here. So I look at how academics do research, and that's a really exciting study, and I'm doing it through San Jose. Hoping to, it's already, my pilot's already done, and I'm hoping to launch the full study at the end of the year. And so the deal is, yeah, that's what you do because that's what you do. You're not doing it because that's the source you're going to put in the paper. That's the source that you're going to use so that you can get a frame around it. And you already come to it with a healthy skepticism, like, is there bias or is there something I'm missing? But straight down the line, everybody does, in the same way that everybody goes to their mother first, or everybody goes to their friends first. There's tons and tons of research on what's the first step in any question one might have. If you look at like the information gap, you want to call it that, which is the Durbin, or you want to call it, you know, something else, which is the Belkin, the state of knowledge, or any of those kind of more theoretical frameworks. But the first thing you do is you go to a person who you know and trust and say, do you know anything about this? And maybe they send you on to somebody else who does know about it, or maybe they tell you themselves. Or if they don't, you go on Wikipedia or you go on Google as if it's that person, knowing that they might not have the full story. But let's just take Paul Revere. It's going to have some story, it's going to give you some dates, and it's going to give you who else is there, and it's going to give you some ideas. So then you can take those terms and pop it into a more focused search using more academic sources like databases. Now, does that feel more like what you do, Amelia, as opposed to feeling like you're owning up to something that's kind of a dirty secret? No, you're just showing that you do it very similarly, and you're seeing other librarians do it very similarly, where you start with what we all start with, which is the world around us, our eyes, our ears. Even if you follow tracks of philosophy, that's what we did. We started with the senses, and after the senses, we moved philosophically into other ways of knowing and trusting other people, testing it for ourselves, and all these other things. So what you're seeing replicated is starting with, the people around you, and which includes Wikipedia and Google, and then you move to a more focused search when you need more, I would say, scientifically supported literature, which only means that the scientific community will support it, and that adds your voice to the scientific community. How does that sound? Oh, you like it. Okay, so Amelia, you and I can talk for a really long time because that's a whole different study I'm doing, and I'd love to share what I know with you because I don't think it's the dirty little secret. I think it's exactly the path of, tried and true, the beginning of time. You look at the first thing you did right after we got through mythology. What we believed in was each other. And I'm talking like philosophically, like, you go back really in the 1400s, that sort of a thing. You've got the whole mythology, and you look only to those sources and what's true and what's not true. And the next thing we did is we started looking to each other. St. Francis of Assisi out of Italy, where he brought in the idea of, I'm going to trust the animals and people and what I know around me. And then you move forward to other types of knowing, and you got Copernicus, and you get Newton, and you trust it because you've seen it and you've tested it yourself. So I'm just showing you that progression mirrors, and I do that all the time in my work. I show you one thing, and I show you how you can see it in 17 other ways, in 17 other places, and I love that about my work, that I can do that, and that's my answer to you.
Yeah, Debbie, I'm very interested in your research on that. And how far along are you? I mean, we can have this conversation some other time, but it sounds very interesting.
Lauren and Marquita want to hear it. So I say to you, if you do want to hear it, I'm happy to go in any direction with this. But if you don't, if you have any more questions, or you're just sort of listening on as you're doing something else, that's fine too. But I'd love to just address what you want to know about as I have. And by the way, did you notice that the title changed with everywhere I put it? Because this study's been called Everything Lately, but I'm going with children playing on an information playground. Is there anything else anybody wants to know about kids and what they do and their information? There's, what I found in their self-generation information seeking. Okay, so Amelia, at 7:10, do you think we should say goodnight and you and I should talk later?
Yeah, that sounds good. I need to jump on over to this other session I'm moderating right now too. So, but thank you so much, Debbie. That was wonderful. I really appreciate you coming and talking to us. And let's go ahead and I'll put the recording up, and we can get your PowerPoint, change it to it. Or do you have PDF that you want to send me?
No, you can leave these because it only shows up what I put up, right?
Yep.
Fine.
Okay, cool. Then I'll do that, and yeah, and then other way people can access it that couldn't be here tonight. So, but thank you. That was wonderful.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for letting me come and talk to you all and tell you all about the things I'm doing. I really appreciate having you invite me. I'm really grateful for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Debbie. And have a good night, and I'll send you an email. I'll follow up with you.
Sure.
Later on. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good night.